The next thing we're going to be learning about are services. You may have seen things like game::get service. This is how we actually get services. In here you would type the name of a service. For example, let's use players. And before that you do have to create a variable. So I'm going to call this local players equals game::get players. This will give me the player service. Not all services are visible in the Explorer, but the player service is right here. All services have different kinds of uses. For example, data store service is most commonly used to save player data. Let's take a look at the most common use of the player service. If you're a bit confused by what's going on in this line, don't be worried because we're going to look at events and connecting functions later. However, it's really simple. When a player joins the game, we're going to be connecting this function, and inside here you would normally just type the name of a function, but instead what we're doing is just putting a function inside, and it looks something like this. This bracket right here is for this bracket right here, and these two brackets are where you'd put parameters. Once again, we're going to be looking at this later, so let me show you guys how we use player added. What I've done here is use instance.new. We already learned about what it does, and I've created a folder. What I've done here is got a parameter for the player that's joining the game, because this will go off every time a player joins the game. It's going to run this code every time a player joins the game, and it tells you what player joined the game right here. So now that I know what player joined the game, I can actually use that in the function. So what I've done is created a folder using instance.new. I've named the folder leader stats, and I've set the parent property to player. Remember, as I said in the beginning of this video, scripting is just changing different properties at different times. What we're doing right here is creating a new instance, and we're setting the name property, and then we're setting the parent property. Same thing over here. We're creating a new int value. If you don't know what that is, click plus and create an int value. This value is a value where you can just set a number of any kind. You can't set a decimal number. It's not actually going to work out. So what I've done is actually change the name property to coins, set the value property to 5,000, and set the parent property to leader stats folder. When I hop into the game here, you'll see that I have 5,000 coins in the top right. So let's take a look at exactly why it did this. When I joined the game, the code went off in this function, and what it did is it first created a folder. It set the folder, and it did not set it to my player yet. Remember, this folder is not parented to anything at this time. Then I changed the name to leader stats, and then I moved the folder into the player that joined the game. We know what player joined the game through the parameter right here. Remember, this code runs every time a new player joins the game. The next thing we did after that is created a coin stat. This is an int value, and it wasn't parented to leader stats yet. After that, we set the name property to coins, and then we set the value property to 5,000, and we set the parent property to leader stats. That's why the coins is in here, and that's why coins shows up right here. There are many different types of services on Roblox Studio. You can find them all in the object browser as we discussed earlier. For example, asset service lets you get bundle details, asset IDs for certain packages, and there's also other services. There are about 139 different services, so it's important that you use the object browser to find info about the services whenever you need them. Another cool service is VR service. This service has its own properties, events, and functions. It all comes down to how well you can use the object browser to understand and the internet to learn about services. If you do want to dive into all the different kinds of services on Roblox, check in the description for a playlist that has many of the services you're going to be using while scripting. Next, let's actually get into the fun part of scripting. Let's learn events and how they actually make your game work.